My name is Melline Reeves, but most people just call me Maddie. I was the quiet one in the family, the one who stayed behind when everyone else moved on. For years, I took care of my father as his health declined, managing the estate and keeping his legacy alive. The Reeves house, a grand old estate in Charleston, was more than a home. It was a piece of our family's soul. Built brick by my father, James Reeves, it held the weight of generations. He planted the white rose bushes himself the year I got engaged, saying they'd be perfect for my wedding photos. Those roses outlasted the marriage. My ex-husband, Holden, left me not long after the wedding for his secretary. Her name was Trisha. She's now his wife. And this morning, she showed up in my garden wearing Lou Bowens like she owned the place. I didn't need to look up when I heard her heels crunching the gravel. I just kept pruning the roses. Well, Trisha's voice dripped with fake sweetness. Still playing in the dirt, Maddie? I didn't answer right away. I clipped a thorny branch, careful not to crush the petals. You know why I'm here, she said, stepping closer, her shadow falling across the flower bed. The reading of the will is tomorrow, and Holden and I thought it best to settle things civilly. I wiped my hands on my apron and turned to face her. There's nothing to settle. This is my father's home. She corrected, lips curling into a smirk. And since Holden was like a son to James for 15 years, we believe we're entitled to our fair share. My grip tightened on the shears. The same Holden who cheated on me with you? I asked, my voice low but steady. That Holden. Ancient history, she shrugged. Your father forgave him. They still played golf every Sunday. My father wouldn't leave him anything, I replied. He wasn't stupid. Her smile faltered, just for a moment. We'll see about that, she said, turning to leave. You might want to start packing. We'll need at least a month to renovate once we move in. As her car drove away, I looked down at the crushed petals in my hand. White roses meant new beginnings, my father always said. But today, all I saw was red. I stood in the garden long after Trisha's car disappeared down the driveway. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the rage that boiled beneath the surface. Just 2 weeks since my father passed, and already the vultures were circling. As I knelt to gather the fallen rose petals, something caught my eye, a small envelope, half buried in the soil beneath the rose bush. Its corner was damp with dew, but the handwriting on it was unmistakable. It was my father's. To Maddie, written in the deliberate, confident script I'd known all my life. My breath caught. I brushed off the dirt and turned it over in my hands. It felt heavy, like it carried more than just paper inside. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called the only person I trusted with this. My best friend and attorney, Danielle Cooper. Trisha just paid me a visit, I said the moment she answered. She's worse than we thought. Can you come over? I'll be there in 20, she replied without hesitation. And I'm bringing wine. True to her word, Danielle arrived with her briefcase in one hand and a bottle of Pinot Noir in the other. You haven't opened it yet? She asked, eyeing the envelope as we sat in my father's study. I wanted to wait for you. Then let's see what he left you. With trembling fingers, I broke the seal. Inside was a folded letter and a small brass key. Dear Maddie, I read aloud, my father's voice echoing in my mind. If you're reading this, someone's already made a move on the estate. Knowing human nature, I'm guessing it's Trisha. She always reminded me of a shark, all teeth, no soul. Danielle chuckled into her wine glass. The key enclosed opens the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside, you'll find everything you need to protect what's yours. Remember what I taught you about chess? Sometimes, you sacrifice a pawn to protect the queen. Love always. Dad. I looked up, eyes glassy. Danielle was already unlocking the drawer. He came to me 6 months ago, she said softly. Right after his diagnosis. He knew exactly how this would play out. The drawer clicked open, revealing a thick manila envelope and a USB drive. Danielle handed them to me, her face solemn. There's more, she said. 3 days before he died, your dad added a modification to his will. A clause that's going to change everything. What kind of clause? I asked. She smiled slightly. The kind that sets a trap. We spread the contents of the envelope across the desk, surveillance photos, bank statements, email printouts. One photo showed Trisha in a dark parking lot, handing something to a man in a suit. My father had them followed. He didn't just hope for the best, Danielle said. He planned for the worst. And suddenly, I knew, whatever Trisha thought she was walking into tomorrow, she had no idea the storm that was waiting for her. That night, the house felt different. Colder. Still. I sat in my father's study, the documents spread out in front of me, the letter still in my lap. Somewhere between grief and fury, I was beginning to see the shape of a plan, my father's final move in a game he'd been playing quietly for months. There was a knock on the front door just after 9. I opened it to find my brother, Aaron Reeves, standing there. He looked nothing like the polished man I'd seen at the funeral. His designer suit was rumpled, his eyes hollowed out with fatigue. In his hands was a worn leather portfolio, gripped like a shield. "You look terrible," I said. "Playing double agent isn't as glamorous as the movies make it out to be," he muttered with a half-smile. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside without a word. He entered the study slowly, glancing at the evidence on the desk before sitting down across from me. "I see you found Dad's insurance policy," he said, nodding toward the photos. "Why didn't you tell me what you were doing?" My voice was sharp. I hadn't meant it to be, but the wound was still fresh. "Because I had to make things right," he said quietly. "After what I did during your divorce, siding with Holden, ignoring how they humiliated you, I was wrong, Maddie. And I knew it." He opened the portfolio and pulled out a check. I stared at it, $500,000. "That's what Trisha offered me," he said. "To testify that Dad wasn't of sound mind when he changed his will." I looked up. "But you didn't take it." "No. I took it straight to Dad. Told him everything." His voice cracked. You should have seen his face, not angry, just disappointed. That hurt worse than if he'd yelled. So that's when he told me the plan. Asked me to help gather evidence. Aaron reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. I recorded everything. Meetings, threats, even Trisha's voice on tape. "Want to hear what she said?" He pressed play. "So once the old man kicks it, we'll contest the will. Aaron, you'll testify about his mental state, Holden's history with him. We'll make the case. Maddie won't know what hit her." My hands clenched into fists. "There's more," Aaron said. He fast-forwarded. Holden's voice came next. "We'll sell the house, liquidate everything. Maddie can go back to her little gardening business. She never deserved any of it anyway." "Turn it off," I whispered. He did. Then he pulled out one last document. "This is why I came tonight," he said. "Trisha didn't just want money. She wanted revenge." For what? For making Holden feel guilty. For taking Alamine. For embarrassing them when you caught them together. I swallowed hard. The memory still stung, walking into my bedroom, finding them together. Her smile triumphant as my world fell apart. "She started embezzling from Dad's company 6 months before that," Aaron said. "He found out right before his diagnosis. That's when he started planning this." I sat back, stunned by the scale of it all. My father had seen what was coming, and instead of confronting it with anger, he crafted a trap so elegant, so complete, it would let them destroy themselves. Sometimes justice doesn't come in a courtroom. Sometimes it comes in a letter, a drawer, and a father's unwavering belief in his daughter. Tomorrow, they would learn that lesson the hard way. The morning of the will reading arrived, crisp and clear. Sunlight poured through the tall windows of my father's study, casting warm stripes across the hardwood floor. It should have felt peaceful, but my stomach churned like a storm was about to break. Danielle was already there, arranging folders and legal documents on the oak desk. Across the room, a small production crew adjusted lighting. That was Trisha's idea. She had hired a team to document the historic moment when she and Holden inherited the estate. She wanted to look gracious on camera. She had no idea what was coming. Erin slipped into the study and gave me a nod. She's outside, rehearsing her thank you speech, he said. Wants to do a walkthrough with the chandelier crew next. I almost laughed. Almost. Everything ready? I asked Danielle. She tapped the envelope that held the CDC, the Conditional Trust Integrity Clause. Our father's final card. All set. When they sign for the initial terms, the clause activates. No way to undo it. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Trisha entered first, wearing a black designer dress and a forced expression of mourning. Holden followed, awkward in his tailored suit. The camera crew trailed behind, recording everything. Meline. Holden nodded stiffly. Danielle stood. As the legal representative of the late James Reeves, I will now read his last will and testament, along with any supplementary documents he prepared. Trisha could barely contain her excitement. We're ready, she chimed, straightening her neckline and glancing at the camera. The will began, predictably enough, bequests to charities, minor items to distant cousins. Then came the main distribution. To my daughter, Meline Reeves, 60% of all estate assets, including the family home, business shares, and remaining financial holdings. To my former son-in-law, Holden Barrett, and his current wife, Trisha Barrett, a combined share totaling 40%. Trisha's face lit up. She grabbed Holden's arm. I knew it, she whispered gleefully. He loved us too much to leave us out. But Danielle didn't stop. However, she said, raising her voice slightly, a conditional trust integrity clause was added 3 days before Mr. Reeves's passing. Acceptance of any portion of the estate under this will is contingent upon a full review of financial activity and personal conduct, both prior to and immediately following the amendment. Trisha's smile froze. What's that supposed to mean? She asked, her voice tight. Holden leaned in, frowning. What kind of clause? Danielle broke the seal on the second envelope and laid its contents across the desk: surveillance photos, signed bank records, printed emails, and the USB drive. These documents, she said clearly, were gathered by Mr. Reeves and verified by legal counsel. They contain evidence of financial misconduct, attempted bribery, and efforts to manipulate the contents of this will. Trisha snatched a photo off the table. Where did you get this? Erin stepped forward. Dad had you followed. He recorded your meetings, your phone calls. He knew exactly what you were doing. Turn off those cameras, Trisha yelled, her face pale now. But the crew just stood there, stunned. Oh no, I said calmly. You wanted them here, remember? You wanted to make history. Danielle continued, unfazed. Under the CDC, if any party is found guilty of manipulating the testator or misrepresenting intentions with malicious intent, their portion of the estate is revoked, effective immediately. You lose everything, Erin added flatly. Holden looked like he'd been punched. Trisha opened her mouth, but no words came. The trap had been sprung. And just like that, everything they thought they'd won slipped through their fingers. Trisha staggered back a step, her perfectly polished composure cracking like glass under a hammer. Her eyes darted from the camera crew to the pile of damning evidence on the desk. The color drained from her face as reality set in. This is a setup, she hissed. You planned this. No, I said softly. Dad did. Holden grabbed a bank statement off the desk, his hands shaking. Where did you get all this? From the drawer, I said. The one Dad told me about in the letter he left, just for me. Danielle gestured toward the camera crew. Everything you've said. Every move you've made. It's all on the record. And now it's part of a legal file. You can't do this, Trisha's voice cracked. We've already signed the acceptance papers. Danielle nodded. Exactly. And by signing, you activated the CTC clause. That clause states that if fraud is discovered after acceptance, all inheritance claims are nullified. And the entire record becomes public. Trisha turned toward the camera, then back to Holden. Do something. Holden looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He had no defense. You were so confident, I said. So sure you had everyone fooled. I did everything for him, Trisha spat. I helped him build a new life. You helped yourself, Aaron replied, stepping closer. To his money, his company. And then you tried to rewrite history. But Dad saw you coming. And now everyone else does too. Trisha slammed her palm against the desk. Turn those damn cameras off. I don't think they work for you anymore, I said, my voice steady. The lead cameraman didn't move. He kept filming. This was better than anything they'd expected. Danielle reached for the final document. Per the clause, she said, Mr. Reeves designated his daughter, Meline, as the sole heir to the estate, with a private trust fund established for his son, Aaron. And you two, she looked directly at Trisha and Holden, receive nothing. Except the legal consequences of your actions. Trisha's chair toppled over as she stood too quickly. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. She stormed toward the door, muttering something about lawsuits and slander, but no one followed. Holden trailed behind her, silent, broken. The door slammed shut behind them. The room fell quiet. Danielle leaned back in her chair, finally allowing herself a small, satisfied smile. Your father would have loved that ending. I exhaled slowly, the tension of the past 2 weeks finally beginning to lift. Yeah, I said. He really would have. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It's methodical. It's patient. It's letting them walk straight into the ruin. They build it for someone else. And this time, they made sure the whole world could see it. That evening, I found myself back in the garden where the first confrontation had begun. The white roses were still there, quiet witnesses to a storm that had finally passed. The same petals Trisha once mocked now stood tall, untouched by her hands, protected by roots deeper than she could ever understand. I knelt down beside the oldest bush, my father's favorite, and placed a single photo next to it. Not one of the evidence. Just a picture of him and me, taken the summer we rebuilt the greenhouse. His arm around my shoulder, sun in both our eyes, and dirt smudged across my cheek. We were laughing. Above us, the sky had turned lavender with the fading light. The breeze was gentle, warm with the scent of jasmine and late-spring honeysuckle. Aaron stepped onto the gravel path behind me. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching as I brushed away the last bit of soil from the roots. Do you remember, I asked without turning, when we used to race our bikes around the fountain? He chuckled. I remember you always cheated by cutting through the tulips. I was efficient, I said with a small smile. Dad said that was good strategy. He came closer, holding a small rose bush in a black plastic pot. Figured we could plant one together. You know, something new. We worked in silence, side by side. No words were needed. Just the quiet scrape of a shovel, the settling of soil, the pad of roots into place. When it was done, I stood and looked at what we had planted. A red rose this time, bold and unapologetic. A new chapter. I'm sorry, Aaron said, finally breaking the silence. For all of it. I know, I replied. And I forgive you. The garden didn't need to speak to hold its meaning. It had always been about second chances, about things growing even after being cut back. And as the wind moved through the branches, I knew one thing for certain. This house, this garden, this life. It was mine now, thorns and all. People often say revenge is about getting even. But standing there in my father's study, watching the truth unfold on camera, I realized something much deeper. This wasn't about revenge in the way they expected it. It wasn't about shouting or screaming or public breakdowns. It wasn't even about reclaiming money or property. It was about reclaiming my worth. My name is Meline Reeves. And for a long time, I let people rewrite my story, my ex-husband, his new wife, even my own brother. But my father never did. He knew who I was even when I forgot. And in the end, he gave me more than just a house. He gave me the tools to stand tall and the reminder that quiet strength speaks louder than rage. To anyone watching this, to anyone who's ever been dismissed, betrayed, or told they were easy to replace, listen to me. You are not replaceable. You are not disposable. And sometimes, the best way to win is to let your enemies reveal themselves. To prepare in silence and let the truth do the talking. My father's last gift wasn't just a legal victory. It was a lesson. Sometimes, the sharpest weapons are love, foresight, and unwavering dignity. So plant your roots deep. Stand firm in your truth. And if someone tries to take what's yours, make sure they know they've picked the wrong garden. If this story spoke to you, if it made you think of someone you know or something you've been through, please like this video, share it, and leave a comment below. We read every single one. And remember, at the Art of Revenge, we don't just tell stories, we reclaim them.